Broadcasting from Detroit's Cass Corridor, it's the Metro on WDET. I'm Robyn Vincent.
And I'm Tia Graham. Today on the show, we sit down with Helen Moore, a woman who has spent a lifetime refusing to let Detroit's children be forgotten. She's fought governors, school boards, and a system that told Black families to settle for less. Now, a community center opens in her name.
We'll also look at another front in the fight for opportunity. Detroit's job training system, now facing shrinking federal dollars and new pressures. What does that mean for the residents depending on it?
Plus, youth homelessness remains one of the city's quietest emergencies. Ahead of Sleep Out Detroit, we talk with people who will spend a night in the cold so young people don't disappear in the shadows.
And later, we revisit the revolutionary legacy of James and Grace Lee Boggs, whose lives in Detroit fused radical imagination with everyday acts of transformation.
Through all these stories runs a single thread: the question of how a place cares for its people through its schools, jobs, homes, and history. This is the Metro.
We begin inside Detroit's school board meetings. The rooms where the city decides the fate of its children. Rooms Helen Moore has filled for over half a century. Sometimes with a voice at the microphone. Sometimes with a crowd behind her. Sometimes being led out by security. Always unshakable. Today, at 89, Mother Moore is still at it. She's helped lead court fights over the state's management of Detroit's schools, challenged emergency managers and charter expansion, and she's pushed for literacy to be recognized as a civil right. She also helped launch Let's Read, a volunteer-driven literacy program created with the Detroit School District. Along the way, Mother Moore has mentored generations of parents to stand up against classrooms with broken heat, missing textbooks, and teacher shortages. Because, as Mother Moore once put it at a school board meeting, education is how we get free. This weekend, the Dexter Elmhurst Recreation Center reopens in her honor. The newly renovated Helen Moore Community Center sits in the West Side neighborhood where she nurtured her organizing. It's a brick-and-mortar monument to a woman who has spent decades insisting that Black children should not have to leave their communities to find opportunity. Here is Detroit Mayor Mike Duggan at a State of the City last year.
And I have to say, for the last 25 years of my life, my number one critic has been Helen Moore. And you know what? Every time she brings me something, she's right. And so there's not an ounce of meanness in her. She wants things that are better for the children. Tomorrow morning, Councilman Fred Dorhol is putting in the resolution, and next year, this brand new facility will be the Helen Moore Community Center.
Today, Helen Moore joins me to talk about the moments that shaped her and what keeps her fighting. Helen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I didn't know I did all that. I just kept going until it got done, and I'm still going. God is good.
I know you're still going. I want to go way, way, way back, though, if we could, before you really started going. Your family moved here from Newport, Tennessee, when you were 3 years old because your father took a job at Ford. I'm wondering.
That's correct.
Yeah, when you look back to your childhood in Detroit, what's the first moment that made you realize the world could be profoundly unequal and that some children were left unprotected?
Oh, boy, that tells I was about 4 years old, 4.5. We came from Newport, Tennessee. My dad was working here at Ford. And so it was 5 of us children and my mother. He came and got us. And I was at the neighborhood school. The community was mostly predominantly white. And the racial attack came on. We didn't know what was going on. They locked us in the school. My family was only another Black family in the building we lived in that was in the school. And they came from the neighborhood with all kinds of weapons and everything. This is my first going on with the people in the neighborhood. And so they had to lock us in school. They let the white children out, and my dad was at work, and the people in our apartment building were at work. And they finally came to get us while we were locked in school. And the people in the community was outside with guns and weapons, et cetera, while the principal locked the doors, chained it, and we were standing there watching all this happen. And finally, my dad came down the street with the people in the apartment building, and they walked us out the rear of the building, and we had to go around the neighborhood to get to where we lived. And that was my first time seeing racism in the city of Detroit, and I was just in elementary school.
Mother Moore, how did that shape what you believed about safety, about school, about who the city was built for?
That was really where it started. And if you know the racist times that came up during that period caused me to think about being black and how are we ever going to get free. I came from the South, Newport, Tennessee. My dad brought us here to Detroit, and then this occurred. They called it a racial discrimination situation, and that's how I got involved with the schools as a little girl, because things began to happen that I recognized that were racist, and I knew that someday I would, and right then, I would have to try to do something about racism for our people.
So that stuck with you in a very profound way. And of course, the 1943 uprising wasn't the only one you lived through. After the 1967 uprising, you moved your family so your children could attend Barton Elementary, a school with a strong reputation. When did you first realize that the education Black children were getting there was changing and that it wasn't an accident?
Well, when I got to Barton, I was so happy. We're going to a community where I was reading about how wonderful the school system was. It was predominantly white. And I thought, this is a place for me and my children. And so I got involved at the school, and I wasn't welcome. It wasn't too many Black parents that were involved in the school system at that time. And so there was some discrimination things that happened with my children. One of my children's name is Alan, and he was in class. And I went to the school to see how my children were doing, and he was outside of the classroom. And I'm saying, Alan, what are you doing out here? Why aren't you in this class? He said, I'll just call his name, Mr. Bertram, threw me out of class. I said, why did he throw you out of class? He said, because my homework was wrong, and I did it wrong, and he wanted me to correct it. And I said, well, my mama helped me with the homework, and she said it's right, and he threw me out of class. So this is how it started. I looked in class. I saw the few Black children that were there. When I looked in, the teacher saw me. I knocked on the door. He opened the door. And you all will have to excuse me. I asked him, why did he send my child out of class? Because the homework was corrected, and it was correct, and he had been given out homework to our children that was not correct. He deliberately was making sure they didn't get the education they deserved. And I'm sorry to say this to you all. I've been trying to be a good Christian all my life, but I got so angry. And I locked the door, and I chased the teacher around the room. And he left the next day. Didn't see him anymore. So that's how a lot of stuff started. I wasn't taking any mess over my children getting an education. I don't like this racism stuff that's going on. And that's how it began. I organized the Barton School parents. We closed the school down. got up early in the morning, made sure we closed the school down, and other people came to support us. And that's how it was. Black Parents for Quality Education back then. That's how everything got started.
Mother Moore, what I'm hearing from you is that you were a mother pushed to the edge, that you felt you had to close that door and chase that teacher. That was you reacting in a way of protection, in a way of survival, but also resilience. And from that moment, as you just mentioned, came the Black Parents for Quality Education. What were parents saying, and what did you think organizing could do that individual complaints or that chasing a teacher around a room couldn't do?
Well, it got in the paper because I went to or started organizing the community and say, what is going on over here? And the Black parents came to the meeting, came to my house, and some of the white parents came to meeting at my house. And I said, this is the moment that we can make the changes for our children to get a quality education. I didn't move from the riot over there on 12th Street to come over here that I read about the school being one of the best in the state, Barton School. I wanted to see that all of our children got the same education as the white children got. And so that's how it began, and that's what happened when the parents met at my house. It was not easy because the word got out that these Black parents are trying to take over the school system. Read the paper, read the background, and see what it was really like. And that's how we organized the Black Parents for Quality Education. And the white parents said to me, well, some of the Black parents said, well, these are white parents that are with you. And Judy Corliss, that was second in command, she said, we're going to keep that word. We're going to say Black Parents for Quality Education. And we're going to move forward with that because the name needs to be out there that Black parents are fighting for the quality education of their children.
So, Mother Moore, what you're saying is that this was a coalition of Black and white parents, of parents coming from different racial and ethnic backgrounds. But during this time, it was very significant to name this group the Black Parents for Quality Education. Right.
And it was a white parent that keep it that way because that's what we're fighting for, equality. And we're going with you with the Black Parents for Quality Education.
Mother Moore, you have spent decades in these kinds of meetings and then also in hearings in courtrooms. I'm wondering, what did that cost you and your family? And what did your children and grandkids teach you about the type of activist you wanted to be?
I got beat up at every board meeting, organized the parents, the same ones I've been talking about, go to the school board meeting, face racism, carry me out, hollering, and with a strategy to my hollering. As they carried me out because they didn't want me to tell the truth in the meeting, I told the truth as they carried me out the door, telling them what they were carrying me out for and what was going on in the school system. So by the time they got me to the door, I had exposed all the things they didn't want me to say in the meeting. And that was strategy coming from Coleman Young. We all met together that nobody knew about. We met and we talked about what can we do. And they said, Helen Moore, she's going to be brave to take over this situation. And every week, many of these people met together. You'd be surprised who was in that meeting.
Who are some of the people who were in that meeting that might surprise us?
Coleman Young. Let me see who else. Joanne Watson, Martha Jean the Queen, and about 5 other people. And we all met just about every day, but I was the one that they sent out there since I was already doing what I was doing, They told me they would be supportive, and whatever happened, even when we went to jail, well, when they tried to put us in jail the first time, it was the parents at Barton School that came together and had to go to court because they said we were acting out and we were disturbing the community and all of that. So we did go to court. And what happened was this. I told the parents, when we go to court, everybody dress like they're going to church. When we get in court, we'll be very quiet and we'll listen to what the judge says. And we'll tell our story and we'll tell the truth. Racism was predominant in our community, and all we wanted was our children to have a quality education. And guess what happened?
What's that?
Calls started coming into the judge. Some of this stuff you can read. It's in my name, and it tells a story. People started calling the judge, and the judge started speaking to us and the school system, school superintendent, and he said, these parents just want a quality education for their children. They are here today to show the world that they are ready to fight for quality education. This case is dismissed. We looked at each other and said, what the heck? We're all nervous that we're going to jail, and he dismissed the case. So that was a new beginning to us. We knew we had support from not only judges, but we had support from the community.
I want to stay on that topic of being a disruptor and working in the system, within and outside of the system, in just a moment. This is The Metro on WDET. I'm Robyn Vincent. My guest is Helen Moore. We're talking about her life of educational activism and advocacy ahead of the opening this weekend of the Helen Moore Community Center. Mother Moore, things weren't always this way. You were not the disruptor. You started your career as a social worker. Was there a moment when you realized case by case isn't enough? I have to fight the system itself. I mean, what pushed you over that line?
Well, it was that day that Alan, one of my children, was we were discriminated against, and the teacher was deliberately giving homework that was wrong. That opened my eyes even further, and I decided that I got a fight on my hand. I got to help organize this community. And so that's when we started meeting, and that's when everything jumped off. Police grabbing us, beating us up, throwing us out of meetings, trying to keep us from telling the truth about what's happening. And there were so many of us at that time. If you look at the record, when we met in city meetings, et cetera, that there wasn't too much they could do. People started joining in.
Mother Moore, what year? What year was this? Forgive me for jumping in.
Okay, it was, let me go back, 69. Check it out.
1969. Okay.
On to today.
At the height of the fight for civil rights, the ongoing struggle, and you saw that there was a need to bring these two things together, education and civil rights. Talk about the inextricable link there.
Well, let me say this to you. I think we got to go back to when I was at school, when my dad had to come and get us because the white people were out there with their weapons, etc., and we had to be locked in school till we could be free. I think it started back then. On up to even today, we still have some problems. Joanne Watson stopped them from beating me up by bringing the community into the school board meeting that day. And it was so crowded. They were all there and said, Joanne Watson told them, do not put your hands on her anymore. Otherwise, you got to deal with us. And you had all these people lined up that were supportive. And she told me not to open my mouth. She was going to make a speech. And she did. And from that day on, they stopped throwing me out of meetings. And so that's when all that you're talking about actually began. So from that
and
day
Joanne
on,
Watson, just for listeners who don't know, that is a pastor, media personality, and was a Detroit city councilor for 10 years. And she was an on-air personality for 910 AM Superstation WFDF. Please continue.
that's right. And she was totally on our side, and people didn't even know that she was also with me as far as Keep the Vote Now, Keep the Vote No Takeover Coalition is concerned, and Black Parents for Quality Education. She was second in command. A lot of people didn't know that when
Mother
I couldn't
Moore?
get to meet. Yeah.
Forgive me. I just want to make sure that we are clarifying some of the things you're talking about here, because this was an important movement, the Keep the Vote, No Takeover Coalition. That was when the state took control of Detroit public schools. In
Right.
your mind, what exactly was being taken over? A school system, or was it Detroiters' right to govern themselves?
It was a school system. And I think they were really scared of us mobilizing and organizing. They wanted the school system, and we fought against it for years, and we got the school system back. We believe that if we continue to struggle and never give up, going back and forth to Lansing, to all the meetings they had, that we would soon win. Sometimes we think that it's over with, and we were taught by Coleman Young and all the others that were with us that you got to keep fighting. Mm-hmm. The fight is worth winning. And so that's what we did. That was our motto. So we went to Lansing often, and we stood up for our children, and the next thing we knew, we exposed the Lansing people and some of the folks that were against us. They took over 15 schools from Detroit Public Schools and said that they would teach the children better than us. They did not. We went back to Lansing and said, can we have testing of the children just like the other children in the Detroit Public Schools have to have? And they finally gave in, and guess what? They had testing, and guess how many children out of those thousands of children they took? You can read the story from Detroit Public Schools. One child passed the testing that they gave, and they turned the school system back over to us.
Well, this speaks to the neglect, the trauma that we know has happened under state control of Detroit Public Schools. And we're going to get a little bit more into that in a moment. This is the Metro on WDET. I'm Robyn Vincent. My guest is Helen Moore, Detroit education organizer, community advocate, and now the namesake of the newly renovated Helen Moore Community Center in the Dexter Elmhurst neighborhood. We're talking about her decades of work fighting for Detroit's children, the right to read, and the promise of strong neighborhood schools. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, the unfinished work of fighting for educational equity in Detroit. Metro on WDET. I'm Robyn Vincent. My guest is Helen Moore, Detroit education organizer, community advocate, and now the namesake of the newly renovated Helen Moore Community Center in the Dexter Elmhurst neighborhood. Mother Moore, you've called the right to read decision better than Brown versus Board of Education, the Supreme Court case that struck down school segregation. And that's because, as you've said, if you can't read, you can't do anything else. Right now, though, even after some gains, only about 1 in 8 third graders in Detroit's public schools are reading at grade level, and that's compared with nearly 4 in 10 across Michigan. And older estimates suggest that nearly half of adults in Detroit struggle with basic reading. When you hear those numbers, after everything you've fought for, What do they say to you about what Detroit still needs to do?
Keep fighting, keep going to the meetings, keep exposing what's really happening, that they're not giving their all to the quality education of our children. They keep changing systems, read this way, that way, the other. They need to go back to slavery when reading was so important, that all they told their children and the community is we got to learn to read. They put all these systems in now that confuses the teachers, confuses the parents and the children. Just go back to reading and not mess it up with all these other things that's coming in, where people come in and say, we got a new program for you. Just learn to read.
So it's gotten too complex.
And I've been saying that.
It's gotten too complex then, is what you're saying.
Right.
How do you make reading more enticing in a time when there are so many distractions, Mother Moore?
Well, the Let's Read program is our program. Keep the Vote, No Takeover came after the lawsuit and all that stuff. And they give us a little stipend, I think about $20 or whatever, to get the people's teachers that have retired and get parents to come into the schools.
Mother Moore,
and
if I may jump in for just a moment, I just want to remind listeners about the lawsuit that we're talking about, the Right to Read lawsuit. And that was filed against the state by a coalition of folks. You were a part of that coalition, and there were students who alleged that because of how bad conditions had gotten under state control of Detroit schools, that infringed on students' ability to read. And a judge ended up awarding the school district $94 million. And that money is being used as we speak to try and improve literacy efforts. Sorry
right.
I just want to make sure folks
right.
know what's going on.
You got all the history right in front of you. This is really just the beginning to undo the wrong that was done. The Let's Read program, it Keep the Vote, No Takeover parents. Many of them are part of a National Action Network. Some of us belong to them, are part of it. And we meet once a month at the Board of Education meeting. And we go over all the things that are happening, and we try to get more people, retired teachers, et cetera, to help us tutor the children. It's working I'm at Barton School. It's working at some of the schools, and it's not working at other schools. So when we meet on once a month, we go over what are the problems. Why are some schools doing real good, and why are some not doing real good? And it's because many of the parents don't realize that they can go to their child's school and tutor once or twice a week to help us out. That's what's missing. We haven't done a good job of getting the people really involved. But there are a lot of us, it's over 100 of us that are tutoring in the schools. And at those schools, they're doing better. But we need a lot of help.
Mother Moore, do you think connected to this is the need for strong neighborhood schools? I mean, you've always fought for that, for strong neighborhood schools, the idea that a child should be able to walk to a good school on their own block. How do you see strengthening neighborhood schools working into this crisis of getting more kids to improve their reading?
Well, this is the secret. If those who are listening, I embarrass when I go out to speak and everything. I embarrass community people, parents that are there, and say, why do you send your children to the suburb schools when you could stay here in your community, help us fight for quality education instead of just giving up and going out to the suburbs or private schools that some of our people go to our children? You're really thinking the wrong way when it comes to how do we get schools better. We have to do it ourselves. We cannot give up on our children. And one thing that I'm watching for the future If we're going out past 8 Mile Road and we have no cars, and we're sending the kids on the buses and stuff, and they go out there, and with all this that's going on in the United States of America, something happens far away from home. We can't get to the kids. Yeah. What does that say about us? Why can't we stay home and work hard to make our schools better and be pleased and happy with that instead of, I would be worried if I sent my 4 children out to the suburbs with the way things are going now, and they never got home, picked up by the security that's been put out there by the president and all that kind of stuff. We'd have to start thinking about safety first, and education has to come with that safety.
Mother
and many
Moore,
of us aren't thinking about that.
What do they tell you in response to why they send their kids to the suburbs, the parents you're speaking with?
Oh, the school system is no good. I said, have you volunteered to work to help? It's just, they're just better than us. Slave mentality. They're better than us. White education is better than black education. Why is it that the Barton School where I teach is one of the top schools? Why are some of us doing it and others are not? We just decided to escape. One day it's going to show its face, and we're going to be sorry that we ran.
And this reminds me of some of the things that Mayor Coleman Young would say about local control, and also what he said about the fight for integrating classrooms with black and white children. He said that it wasn't about the need necessarily to integrate the classrooms. It was about making sure that black children were getting all of the same resources and the same level of education as their white counterparts. And that was the need for local control, right?
He told the truth. That's it exactly. We got to love ourselves and we got to love our children. We can't be still thinking we're slaves.
Mother Moore, you've lived through segregation, through uprisings, white flight, bankruptcy, and now a wave of investment in rec centers, one bearing your name opening this weekend, and other neighborhoods. If you put 1967 Detroit and 2025 Detroit side by side, what feels different for black children and what feels the same?
Let me think about that. That's a good question. What feels different? Okay, when I started off, it was pretty much anger. My children are going to get an education, whether they're black or not. They're going to get an education. But then we get to 25, and we see that the education that I fought for has gone backwards. We filed a suit. We won the suit. And we got money now to tutor the children. What is wrong is that our thinking in our heads is that white folks' education is better for our children. We don't think about what we can do for our children, keep them safe at home, and make our school system better. We got to change. And we got to believe in God, and we got to believe that we can do what we're running out to the suburbs to do. Some of us are doing it now, but the other folks need to look at themselves and see why it is that they think that white education and sending their children out to those areas are better than staying home and working hard to make our school system just as good or better. It's a change of the mind. The fact that we are black doesn't mean that we can't learn to read, because we got children all over the United States that are black, that are excelling, that are graduating from college, 12 and 13 years old. Check the history out. We know our history, but some people do not know it. And when they know the truth shall set them free.
When you talk about the need to change, it also brings to mind, Mother Moore, how the perception of you has changed and what that means. I mean, you've said we've gone from throwing Helen Moore in jail to Helen Moore is leading. How do you hold the honor of having your name on a building alongside the knowledge that many of the issues you fought decades ago are still with us?
That was a surprise. Everybody thinks I was sitting at that meeting when the mayor announced that I was putting on an act. That was a surprise. And when I think about it, and what's going to happen Saturday when they honor me with the school, I keep calling it the Dexter Elmhurst School.
The Helen Moore Community Center, yes.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that. And so when I think about all that's behind us and all that can be before us, even in that center, we tutor children. We tutor children in the Dexter Elmhurst Center. We feed them. We feed the seniors. There's a lot going on in that center that could change this whole school system. And I'm not going to say any more, but you will see the future. And you will know the task that we took on and how it worked for us.
You've told stories about threatening mayors and dragging officials through that old Dexter Elmhurst building to keep it from being lost. Mother Moore, as briefly as you can, when you walk into the new Helen Moore Community Center, yes, you're going to have to get used to saying it. What do you see that most people might miss?
Okay. Michael Searcy, who was director of the center, met with me. He passed away. He had cancer. He kept it quiet for a long time. And then when they released him from the hospital and they told him it was terminal, he called me to his house. His wife did. And we had a long talk. He said, I'm going, but you're still here. And I trust you to do all the things that I did not complete. The schools are important. The center is important. Don't let it get to your head, because you're always going to have some enemies back there that are going to be jealous. They're going to do a lot of things that you need to just ignore. So I'm giving you the center because I'm going. And I want you to listen to what I'm saying, and I'm going to tell you how you defeat the enemy and how you make it to the promised land. That's what I call it, the Dexter Elmhurst Center. And that's what he did. He gave me instructions. I'm keeping it to myself. And I continue to do what he told me to do. And now we have the center. And it's going to be marvelous, and it's going to do the things that we need to do for our children, including education. We had it there before, and we're going to have it again, even better. I wish you could see that center. It is so marvelous. While I was watching the people put the center together outside, over there all the time, because Michael told me to do it. Check it out. Make sure they do the right thing. They did the right thing. Many times they didn't know I was out there watching, but sometimes they did, because I went inside and they showed me the entire center. I'm just so happy, and I'm tying the two together. Education and the center go together. We will have tutoring. We will do the things that's necessary for our children to excel.
Helen Mother Moore, thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you for the decades you've spent organizing, mentoring, and insisting on opportunity for every child in this city.
God is good, and I thank him for all the things that he's done for me and I'm able to do for our people, especially our children. And thank you for having me on the show. It's been a pleasure.
The Helen Moore Community Center, formerly the Dexter Elmhurst Recreation Center, reopens this weekend at 11825 Dexter Avenue. The celebration is Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. It includes a ribbon cutting, tours of the renovated building, and family activities throughout the afternoon. Coming up, federal dollars from the Biden administration have dried up, and that's affecting city departments. We'll hear how Detroit's Office of Job Training is being impacted.